All right. Welcome, folks. My name is Rachel Wilkins. Welcome to the Smart Art Business Podcast. Delighted to be here this afternoon. Joined by a wonderful guest. I have Stephanie Perreira, who is the director of the New Ink program, joining me today. Hi, Stephanie. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Rachel. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the amazing program at New Ink, which is an incubator program that began as part of the New Museum. So I think just right out of the gate, if you can tell us a little bit about the program, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, we're founded by the New Museum back in 2013. We launched in 2014. We're now in year 7 of our program. And the incubator was created as a shared workspace and professional development program for people working at the intersection of art, design, and technology. And really sort of, I don't know how much you all know about the New Museum, but we're a contemporary art museum. We're non-collecting. We work with almost all living artists. And so one thing that the museum leadership knows is that living artists need all the help that they can get in professionalizing their practice. And then I think additionally, the museum has long been invested in digital transformation and really interested in how artists in particular are using technology. And so they decided to create New Ink, which is a space where we celebrate technology very fully, but also do provide safe space for people to gather and professionalize their practice.
It's an amazing program, and I want to talk a little bit in a moment about how I came to be connected with the program and a little bit of my experience, having had a little bit of inside information on the goings on of the program. But let's talk a little bit about some data. 550 jobs have been created as a result of this program to date. 277 businesses created or retained. 23.3 million raised in capital by New Ink members, and 31.9 million of revenue generated. They are some staggering numbers for what, a decade that this program has been, less than a decade that the
less
program
than a decade. Yeah.
Talk to us about how those success rates. Like, what is it? What do you think that's so special about this program that is delivering such tangible results?
Yeah, well, I think first it's our amazing community. So we host about 100 members each year, and these are people who are really at the top of their game. They're incredible talent. They're people who have commercial studios that work for big clients, and they're also artists who are showing at museums and major festivals and fairs around the world. So all credit to them for their just incredible talent and work. And then what we do is really just help people concretize and identify their pipeline for revenue. So a lot of times people coming to us, they're bringing all the talent in the world, and we're just helping them figure out, how do I make sure that I have enough money coming in the door, not only to make the work, but to sustain myself and my practice.
And the way that you do, kind of support people through that process is you have this structure in place where not only are you giving a physical environment where folks can actually come together and, there's this environment of collaboration, but there is this solid network of support that exists to really hold up that structure as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and yeah, you know about that firsthand. Yeah, I mean, this is critical. So the New Ink network, the New Ink family, it's, as I mentioned, we have about 100 members each year, but also engaged, we are about 150 mentors each year. And these mentors are experts who hail from the art, design, and technology world. A lot, up until recently, it was all New York City based professionals. So a lot of, executives, C-suite professionals, entrepreneurs working at in this sort of sweet spot for us. Because of COVID, we actually expanded our mentorship program to include a lot more virtual participation. And so now we have a lot of really interesting and accomplished professionals and executives from even around the world, which is really great. And it's a critical piece of our program. We have many, many, many layers of mentorship and many touch points. One of the key goals is, as you said, network. So when you look at what makes someone successful, if you look at study after study after study, it really does come down to who you know. So that's peer support, and that's also professional support. So getting invited in to do the work, getting paid to do the work, and then also the collaboration piece. So who do you get to work with? How do you get to advance and improve and really make your practice shine? So the network, we have, in addition to our mentors, we have 450 alumni, and then just a broader community of friends and family who've been through the program or come worked in partnership with us over the years.
And I think what's really critical to certainly highlight here is that we've seen these opportunities exist in other places before, but the opportunities have generally been directed towards a very specific class of people. What I think is amazing about New Inc. is, you were really committed to the equality and diversity of not just the folks that you are allowing into the cohort, but also those that serve on the membership panels as well. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like. I have some stats here about 50% Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and also 49% women, X, and also femme. So tell us a little bit more about the importance of that for you as the director.
Yeah, I mean, so back, it's a priority of the new museums. It always has been. I mean, it's the rare women-led museum. And so in year one of New Inc., we sort of threw our doors open. We said, who's going to arrive? The then director, Julia Kuganski, did an incredible job inviting in just some of the top talent working in the city. But after year one, we sort of looked around and said, wow, there's a lot of white men in this room. And so, going into year two, which was 2015, the team made a big commitment to diversifying the community and to really making some serious commitments around equity and inclusion as well. And so they brought on a full-time director of community, Rasu Jalani, who worked with the team as a consultant, not only to lead recruitment, but also to think about how does this team at a program level, including mentorship, think about these goals and how do we make them a real and lived experience for our members. And then also thinking, as you said, we think about our stats, we think about our economic impact. So on the impact side, how is this going to drive culture? How is this going to change the narrative around what matters and what gets made and what gets represented in the world? So this is a drum that we beat every single day as we design our program. Every gathering we have, we're always thinking about co-creation. We're always thinking about who gets to be at the table, who's creating the sort of world that we live in.
And there seems to be a big focus on collaboration just across the board.
Yeah.
I noticed, as a program, you're very involved with some of the major players in tech, in AI, a recent collaboration with Bell Labs. So talk to us a little bit about how important those relationships are, and what kind of the future looks like in terms of the outreach to other organizations that will perhaps bring opportunities for the artists that are in these programs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, Nokia Bell Labs is an incredible example of one of our strongest partners. We've been working with them since 2017 now, I think unofficially since 2016. So, pretty early on in our program, but in general, I think there's this kind of beautiful synergy with, the bigger companies, the Googles of the world, and the Amazons of the world, the Facebooks of the world, and the kinds of things that they're starting to sort of wishing that they thought about more. And then the kinds of communities that we have, which are highly experimental, highly interdisciplinary, just trying new things all the time, collaborating also across, so we have like our, data scientists collaborating with our graphic designers, creating whole new things. And so inevitably those big companies come to us because they're looking for fresh ideas and they're looking for innovation. And, one thing that, and of course on our end, they have a lot of resources that we don't otherwise have. So in the example of Nokia Bell Labs, the program is built, it's predicated on exchange. So as part of that relationship, we spend a lot of time out at their New Jersey campus, meeting their researchers, immersing ourselves into their research areas, which then inspires the artistic thinking that then creates new projects. So it's really this kind of this process of back and forth.
So talk to us a little bit about this past year, because it has been very different in terms of how the program has been structured. I actually was a mentor right at kind of the cusp of the pandemic. I was working with one of the members, and midway through the process, we had to move our conversations and meetings online, and it was a smooth shift for us. But I can't imagine what that looked like on a broad scale when you're dealing with 150 members, mentors, etc. How has that affected? Has there been anything positive that's come out of this experience?
Yeah, I will say there's been surprising positives for sure. So I think, in March, when we shut down our space, it felt we were in the middle of last year's open call. And we wondered, should we be doing this? Is this what the world really needs right now? It felt weird to be promoting our open call sort of amidst this, like, really this global crisis. But then what we saw was, in particular, a lot of our mentors stepped up to offer extra hours, extra support, really help guide our members through this sort of this new moment, this new now. Also, for a lot of our members who've been working in digital technology and really been ahead of the curve and thinking about telepresence, for example, or how do you show what does live performance look like on the internet? Suddenly, they actually had more work than they could handle. And then also for our members who are deeply invested in social justice work, and then more specifically around racial justice, it was a really intense time for them, as you can imagine. I mean, after the murder of George Floyd, not only were they enduring all of the intensity that everyone was, they also were trying to do the work. So it was a big moment for us, and the ability for our mentors to step up was so critical. And then it also helped us realize that our program was actually quite essential. So we gathered our program online as best we could through Slack and through virtual gatherings on Zoom. And we held space, we had workshops, we did tailored discussions, we just sort of tried to like make it a space for people to work out. And I have to say, so in terms of like good things that came out of it, New Inc, had long been understood to be this like shared workspace. First and foremost, it was a place where you could co-work or get a desk and work out of, and people would show up and they would hang out and they would work with each other, and it was just this beautiful thing. And then we also provided mentorship, and we also provided professional development. Since the pandemic has begun, it's really inverted. Our community program has taken on a completely different shape, nothing to do with shared workspace. And our professional development program has, become a lot more about like a member-led experience. And then mentorship is really, as I said, we've been able to expand our mentor pool. It's continued to be really important. And going forward, we also learned by putting our professional development online, not only could we reach more people, we could reach them in a way that was more inclusive of their needs. So it's much easier to show up at a Zoom, workshop rather than schlepping into a physical space. Maybe you can't do it for, physical reasons, for family childcare reasons. We also, because of work reasons, a lot of reasons, like going to physical space is hard for people. We also learned that by doing things online, it was more inclusive in terms of neurodiversity. So it was just easier for people to show up in all their ways in virtual space. So because of that, we've actually decided to keep both our mentorship program and our professional development program online next year. So even though we'll be reopening our physical space, we're excited for it. We're also really excited for this like sort of new, more expansive way that people could come together and collaborate and learn together.
Just the idea that we can reach and impact more people, more community.
Yeah.
It's really an incredible thing.
Yeah, I mean, people in New York City, we have it good, right? Like we have more resources than anyone. And I actually used to work at Kickstarter, and we did this huge study. I talk about this a lot, where we were trying to understand what made someone have a successful campaign versus a not successful campaign. And it really came down to, if you live in a big city, lots of people, you have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of, you just talk about your work more often. And that's unfortunate. It feels like, in a moment where, telepresence is possible, why is there not more resource and opportunity? So we're excited. We definitely had a bunch of non-New Yorkers this year, and they've all been really grateful for the opportunity to swim in the waters with us. So excited for next year too.
It certainly democratizes opportunity a little more. I do think that we have this added layer of privilege by living in and around New York City, without a doubt.
100%. Yeah.
Just the 6 degrees of separation that we all share with our LinkedIn connections alone.
Yeah.
So you do have this opening coming up. There is an open call. The open call ends the April 20th. So talk to us about who is eligible for that, how they might go about applying, and any other details that you want to share about that open call.
Yeah, so this year's open call is really exciting because, as I mentioned, you do not need to be based in New York City. We do ask that you are still eligible to work in the States, because we are an incubator and we do care about economic impact. And because a lot of the lessons we teach around business education are very state specific. So there's a sort of a point of diminishing returns around what we can provide if you're not able to do work in the States. Also, no full-time students in our program. So only people who've completed, if you're working on a PhD, that's cool. But otherwise, we are looking for professionals who are like into their career at least a couple of years. And then we have, one of the ways that we organize our program is around tracks or focus areas. And so we're looking this year for people working in extended reality. That's always been a huge area of focus for New Inc. We have so many notable alums that have come out of our XR track, and we're always excited about continuing to explore that. We also have a track focused on art and code, which we're doing in partnership with Rhizome. So that's for people with internet-based art practice. We have another track called Creative Science, which is for people who are artists or designers whose work is somehow based in science. Either they have a scientific collaborator, they have a major sort of scientific body of research or theme that they're focused on. And then this year we've tried to tighten the focus of our creative science track on climate. We're really interested in just fresh thinking, fresh ideas, motivational ideas about like the coming climate disaster, not to be doomsday. And then we have two new tracks, one of which is called Collective Abundance, which is new models for health, wealth, and justice. We've been really feeling, in this year's track, a lot of people have been interested in co-ops or cooperative business structures. We're really interested in this idea of how people can come together to creatively just reimagine things in a way that's not oriented around scarcity, but instead around joy and just like spreading the wealth. I feel like that's been like sort of the flip side of the coin of the crisis that we're in, as we're seeing like how precarious things are for so many people. Super urgent. And then another super urgent thing that's emerged out of the past year is around monument making. So we have a track called Collective Memory this year that is focused around monuments, but also archives, digital archives and physical archives. Also interested in world building, anything that sort of upsets the way that a dominant narrative exists or can exist in the world, to just rethink who gets to show up, who gets remembered, how and why, and then how that creates agency in the world.
I love the disruptive quality of the work that you're doing. It's much
We're trying.
It's much needed. It's been this very, whitewashed art world that we have, lived with for so long. So, for those that are looking for the open call, we will give a link to the details. Any other specific, requirements? Is there any fees associated with the application? Can you just give us a little bit more on the specs?
Yeah, absolutely. So the fee for participation is $200 a month, and it is an annual commitment. Our creative science track is subsidized by a partner, the Science Sandbox, which is an initiative of the Simons Foundation. So that's $50 a month. And then we also have a limited number of subsidies we can offer for people who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, people who are queer, trans, people with disabilities, these are groups that we're prioritizing this year, and we always prioritize. Worth noting, in year 7, you shared our sort of like cumulative average stats. In year 7, we're 63% BIPOC, 50% women or femme, and then 9% gender nonconforming, 22% international, 22% first gen. I just was looking at these numbers, also 23% LGBTQIA. So these are things that we're continuing to look at and push on. So we're able to offer subsidies to support these areas that are priorities for us this year. Yeah, and then I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's super important to know. So that's what it costs. Oh, what I was gonna say is, so yeah, all the subsidized membership is $50 a month for an annual commitment though. And then we are moving back into physical space, and at which point the offering around the program increases. So at which point you'll be able to access our shared workspace again, all of our digital production tools, our light sort of fabricating equipment. And then hopefully we'll be able to rent desks to people again too, which will make a sort of as like an additional offer.
And just, the nuts and bolts of this is, the physical space is a beautiful building that sits right next door to the new museum. So you also have
Yeah.
a lot of access to that amazing space that is the new museum. I believe there's a free membership as well that comes with.
Yes. Yeah. Membership to the museum definitely comes with New Ink membership. Something actually that's delaying access to space is that we have to leave that space. So we're looking, so that the museum is expanding and they're going to be knocking down our building so that we can have a brand new building that we can live inside of, which we're all very excited about. So we are currently looking for a space that will be like a 10 to 15-minute walk from the new museum, which is located on the Bowery and Prince. So it'll still be really well located, lower Manhattan, roughly what you sort of see in the current New Ink space in terms of like amenities and ability to book conference rooms and, have meetings and do all that important stuff.
So the cohort runs, it's just 3/4 of the year. Can you give us the details of when it starts, what people can anticipate? Obviously they have access to this space, but what are the resources they have on hand during that time?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we kick off officially in September every year. And we open with like a big, beautiful day-long orientation where you get to meet people and be in community with them. It's very like touchy-feely, ooey gooey, really nice. It gets gooier every year, which I love. And everyone loves it too. We did it on Zoom last year. We're not sure if we'll do it on Zoom or real life this year, depending, I guess, on vaccinations and herd immunity. It did work on Zoom. Then we do a week-long what we call camp, which is sort of, our take on the traditional boot camp that you might see in an incubator program, where we give everyone the lay of the land. One thing we've learned over the years with business education is you gotta center it in artistic values. You can't just be like, here's a spreadsheet to a room full of artists. That doesn't work. No one likes that. So instead, we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we talk about things in a way that's meaningful to our creative community. So boot camp is all about, or camp is all about orienting people in this space, in our professional development space, so that they can sort of get a sense of the year to come. And then, so September through June, we offer seasonal intensive. So that's a day-long experience that's all around our professional development curriculum. We offer mentorship. Everyone gets paired with a dedicated mentor. And then office hours mentorship, which is a chance to, meet with people sort of, I like to say tactically. So you might say, hey, I'm working on my website. What do you think? Can you give me feedback? Or I'm trying to get some press around this new project I have coming up. Can you brainstorm some ideas with me? And then we also offer what we call track mentorship. So I mentioned earlier, all our cool different tracks. So we bring in experts who can work with these smaller groups of people around. They're like subject matter experts. So for the XR track this year, it's focused on live performance. So we have Janet Wong from New York Live Arts, for example, who is the track mentor in residence. And then that's the professional development program is September through June. We do offer mentorship through July. And then officially you're with us through August, but people tend to sort of like drift away. But we do a sort of a big blowout closing party in August as well, just to sort of cap the year.
Amazing. I have to ask, what have been some of your favorite experiences or success stories, having been director of the program for a couple of years now? What are your favorite moments?
Man, I love that I love that question. We do every year we do a demo day. So we usually do it twice a year. It was once because of COVID for the past 2 years. But it's this big kind of like celebratory stage moment where a dozen of our members are invited to like go through a very rigorous pitch prep program to learn how do you pitch a creative project, and sort of end your presentation with an ask, a concrete ask. And, we fill the room with curators and writers and presenters and producers and funders. We try to just fill the room with like people with power. So we put our dozen people in front of all these powerful people and they do their thing. And it's just the most energizing sort of like glorious moment. We love doing it. The members, it's always like a big slog for them. And then they get to the end, they're like, wow, I'm so glad I did this. And then we end that after they do this, we have this like 2-hour presentation program, which ends with like a party in the Sky Room at the museum, which is just like celebrating them and also meeting lots of people. So that's definitely a highlight. And then I'm first and foremost, I'm a community person. So I have to say, like for me, since I joined in 2018, I've had a big focus on just trying to make the New Ink community super healthy. So, there's there's a quote, I don't know who said it, I should look this up sometime, but it's a community isn't a community until it self-organizes. And so every year, that's one of my metrics for success. Like how soon do people start self-organizing, and like what are they doing? When are they, like right now we've got a bunch of people organizing their own shows, for example. And it just makes my heart glow when these things happen, because then I know I've successfully, I mean, we started this conversation talking about network, and I just feel like unless people are working in that way with each other, there's no real long enduring stickiness to the value of their community experience. So we throughout the year try to create different ways for people to get to know each other in really vulnerable ways, and ways that will help them, sort of build those core bonds that we know will serve them forever.
And I think, another thing that is key is, whatever that philanthropic mission that comes through from certainly from you and from the other people that are involved in the decision making of the program, is you can see that it's transferred through into the members just by the activity on the likes of the Slack channels, because everybody is constantly sharing opportunities. It's not an arena where there is this competitive, I'm not going to share this opportunity because I want, just to be so I'm not competing with others.
Yeah.
It's a very fertile environment that is fostered by you guys. So I think that's highly commendable. It's something that we don't see too frequently, especially with big institutions. So amazing work. I do want to share a little personal story.
Please do.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's important. When I first got involved with New Inc. as a dedicated mentor, I did come along to, one of the great things about this program is you do this, pre-COVID, there was a kind of like a matchmaker, almost like a speed dating experience where you brought all the mentors and all of the, the cohort members, those that have been selected, and put us in one very small room, I might add.
Yes, I know, we need a bigger room.
We could not do that post-COVID or in this time for sure. And I think it was like 2 minutes of conversation with different folks that you'd matched us with. And I came along, it was my first experience working with you guys, and spoke with 5 or 6 folks who were all in very similar disciplines to my little corner of the world, which is of course working with visual artists. And I remember getting matched, and I remember frantically emailing you and saying there must be some mistake because you've matched me with somebody who's a musician. And I was in full panic mode. I'm like, this is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to be helpful to this person. This is terrible. I must tell Stephanie immediately. And you were like, no, it's fine. It's totally fine. Believe me, it's fine. And it was one of the best experiences. It was a lesson for me, because it was a lesson that, yes, you don't have to, my skills don't just exist in a vacuum, right? Some of these skills translate across different artistic arenas. And I learned so much in the process from working with I can say, with Kinlaw, and she's having such a moment, and it's been such an amazing experience to be, a very, very small part of that relationship, really. So thank you for that.
I love that. And I love that. And I love that you bring up that story, because that's something we tell our members all the time, because that's a common freak out. They're like, I looked at this person's bio and it doesn't match. I don't understand. And we talk about this a lot. It's that essence. It's more, it's a different, I love this I don't exist in a vacuum thing, because I think it's, we do see that some of the most generative matches they're not about the subject matter. It's something else. Yeah, we met last year. We also matched a baker and a landscape architect. And they're obsessed with each other. I mean, it was huge. Yeah.
And it really just, again, like, you talk about the importance and the focus of community. Like, it opens up our community. It's, it's not just so one-dimensional, and it totally changes, your outlook on what is possible. And I think that's just a really amazing thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. This has been wonderful. Do tell our listeners, our viewers, where they can go ahead and apply.
Yeah, definitely. Please do check us out at newinc.org/apply. Or if you just Google New Inc., there's no way you can't find your way to our apply page once you get to our website. It's very prominent. So yeah, please do read more about New Inc. And thank you so much, Rachel, for this opportunity. It's been really nice to chat with you.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. And, I've said it many times, New Inc. is one of the very few, institution-led programs that I would be so vocally supportive of, because they really do exactly what they promote. You know, they're very artist focused. You guys are really put your money where your mouth is, and I really, really appreciate that. So thank you for sharing this time with me.
I love that. Thank you so much. Same. Bye-bye.
Bye.